Today I'm going to be focusing on the evolution of oilfield services amidst the COVID-19. The information that I'm putting across today is just sharing what I'm seeing over here in Houston in the energy corridor, and sharing some of the developments that are common amongst the upstream oil and gas fields and operations, both domestically and internationally, and trying to give everybody a little bit of a feel for discussions that have been held, topics that have been discussed, and trends that we're seeing. So I think one of the first major changes that we're seeing is being brought upon us by the technology challenges that we've all been faced at the moment due to the social distancing amongst the pandemic. So I'd like to talk about two main topics. The first is on advanced digital technology, and the second is on rig mechanization. So with every change in our environment, I think we see a reflective change with regards to the technology that we're using today and the technology that we're going to be using tomorrow. And today I've seen a huge amount of digital technology space advancement. A lot of the service companies and E&Ps are looking for renewed digital technology. They're looking for more data. They're looking to be doing as much of their site operations as remotely as possible, and they're trying to manage a lot of their operations using some rig mechanized equipment, drones, cameras, and things of that kind of nature. So the digital technology, all the information that they're collecting today, which is more information than we've ever collected in the past, has all been controlled and submitted back to remote operating centers. And the remote operating centers would be, the engineers behind the screens who are able to analyze the data, make decisions, calculated decisions, and then roll out any hardware or mobilize any personnel, equipment, etc., in order to carry out any operations. With regards to the monitoring of the data, we're seeing rigs and operations out in the field, out on the well sites, collecting more data than ever before. Production optimization, as an example, the information that's being collected is significantly more advanced. We are comparing engineering, predictive analytics versus analog predictive analytics, merging the two in order to be able to predict any downtime failures, any repair and maintenance requirements, in order to minimize production downtime. On the rig sites, it'll be much the same. On the rigs themselves, data is being collected. They're comparing that data versus backlogged engineering data, and being able to analyze it to be able to compare the performance of the well being drilled, the performance of the operations, and again, being able to make far more calculated decisions, because there's a very heavy engineering team, and each engineering team member can be based remotely, but that nonetheless they have the capacity to be able to analyze the data from a remote situation. And not only can they analyze the data, but they can analyze the data from a multitude of different well sites, rig sites, production optimization sites, etc. So I think this has advanced significantly. I think you now have the capacity to have the full engineering teams, effectively on the sites, analyzing and optimizing the drilling performance, the production performance, the well testing performance, and ultimately managing the well to the best they can. And you'll have now the minimum amount of personnel on site, literally doing the designated hardware and necessary, roles and responsibilities that need to be carried out on the site. With regards to rig mechanization was predominantly offshore. It's now trending towards onshore because we're trying to maintain the social distancing. So the rigs have been mechanized to limit the amount of personnel on site. Offshore rig mechanization was predominantly brought about with regards to, the HSE efforts in order to reduce exposure of personnel to rotary equipment, to any moving equipment. But now the rig mechanization on the onshore drilling rigs is mainly being focused on trying to minimize the personnel on site and maintain social distancing. Rig mechanization does have a huge challenge. It is expensive. It has a big capital outlay, and it needs to be, there are efforts to simplify the rig mechanization as much as possible. This is a slower advancement by comparison to the digital space. The digital space has a huge advantage because on the digital platforms, they're very easy to modify, they're very easy to design, they're very easy to roll out. It's very simple, fast, and cheap. And the consumer or the customer has the luxury of being able to collect more and more and more data than ever before in order for them to analyze and make decisions. Rig mechanization, as we all know with hardware, it requires an element of concepts, an element of redesign, then manufacture, then testing, then rolling it out, then testing again. So this is going to take some time, and we're still seeing it coming to the world side, certainly in the North American space, but it's taking a much longer period of time than the digital space. So this ties in neatly with the technology market challenges that we're seeing today. And if I go back to where we were in 2015, just after the last oil crisis that we had, there was, again, the reduction in prices, the negotiation of contracts. But what it does, as I was mentioning earlier, is it acts as a catalyst to enhance technology evolution. So you cannot stay in the same place offering the same service in the same way for the same price. You will get left behind. Everybody today needs to be in this challenging environment where new technology needs to come about, and we're very good at doing this, and this is a catalyst that excites the new technology. But the challenge today is threefold. In bringing the new technology to the market, it has to be easier, so it needs to be simple in its use, it needs to have a low adoption and implementation. It needs to be better than what we were doing yesterday. In other words, it needs to improve our operating efficiency. It needs to reduce cost. It needs to provide us with more data. And it needs to be cheaper. So usually when you come up with a new technology that would be easier and it would save money, you would have an excellent value proposition to be able to sell it for more, but you can't. Today, you need to sell it for less. And that's the huge market challenge that the service companies have more than anybody else in order to bring the new technologies to the table. For the digital space, I think it's excellent because that's a low cost, low development, and it's built up on a higher volume scale. For the hardware side, it's extremely difficult, but nonetheless, it does happen. But these are the challenges that the market's facing today. And I've simplified it by just saying it has to be easier, it has to be better, and it has to be cheaper. And it must include all three of those key elements. One of the other evolutions that we're seeing, and I'll take a pivot now towards the exploration and production companies, refer back to the recent announcement by Bernard Looney from BP with regards to their trends towards renewables. Again, back in 2015, we saw a similar kind of trend that came up, and it sort of fizzled out a little bit, but again, it's being re-excited due to the catalyst of COVID-19, and that is of national oil companies and international oil companies broadening their portfolios to become more of an energy company rather than an oil and gas or an exploration and production company. And here's why. They already have the resources and the capability and the technology and the intelligence within the company to be able to broaden their portfolio into areas of power generation and to be able to entertain the technologies for renewables. And there's a synergy between all of them. So from your oil and gas, within generating your hydrocarbons, when generating your hydrocarbons, you then have fuel to then fuel your power generation. With the power generation, there's then the advancement that's gone from using your heavy oils to advancing into using natural gas, which is leaner and more efficient and greener to the environment. And then by trending from natural gas over into the renewable space, we know that we can blend over into hydrogen. We can merge some of the power generation together with renewable power generation, and again, blend into a greener kind of environment. And that can all fall under an energy umbrella. So the E&Ps today are advancing significantly into this space. Just before the COVID-19 pandemic hit, there was a big acronym that had been floating around, which was that of ESG, environmental social governance. Well, the E in ESG is a huge aspect that has an impact on public E&Ps and public service companies, where they can improve metrics. It's very well commended and invited. So E&Ps today, national oil companies and international oil companies, I'm seeing a lot of traction and a lot of feedback of them enhancing their portfolios to be energy companies. So the last topic that I wanted to talk about is the trend in mergers and acquisitions. And this is a really interesting graph from the global data, on the global data oil and gas mergers and acquisitions. And what's exciting to see is, although the deal value volume is reducing, we are still continuing with the mergers and acquisitions. And it's a case of buy, 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 or sell, sell, sell. Anybody or any organization that is surviving, a new startup company or a new technology that is surviving amidst one of these oil and gas suppressions, is going to flourish as the market picks back up after the dust has settled, etc. And with the public prices being reduced, these are prime times for the bigger players to swoop in and acquire some of the newer and more advanced niche technologies. And in addition, to support these niche technologies, to really lift them off the ground and bring them to the market. Go back to the market challenges I was talking about earlier, where you've got those technologies that are better, easier, cheaper, etc. You've now got these forums where you've got the bigger companies, coming in to give them that commercial boost that they need in order to bring them up to the market. So we're still seeing the merger and acquisitions continuing to flourish. I think you could just see in May it's picking up to 1.1 billion versus February and March, where it dropped to 0.2 billion. But the mergers and acquisitions are still there. I think there's going to be a further tick up that we're going to see in June. I believe that once Q2 is closed and earnings are reported, I think July, August, and September, we'll see that uptick in the mergers and acquisitions. And I think that's beneficial to the startup companies, the newer, smaller companies, and that'll bring forward some new technologies that'll help us in this COVID-19 pandemic, where we need to change our mode of operandum to focus on the new way of